Story 1. In 2016, my family moved into my grandparents' house in the outskirts of a small Oregon town, a place surrounded by dense woods and open fields, with a sluggish river curling along our southern fence. I was 9, and my grandparents, Clara and Harold, had just downsized, leaving us their home, built in the early 90s on 5 sprawling acres. It felt like the edge of the world, quiet except for the hum of crickets at night. Our only neighbors lived on a crooked patch of land next door, where an old farmhouse from the 1920s sagged into the earth. That house was a wreck, like it was rotting from the inside out. The siding was faded, always looking damp even on sunny days, and the yard was a jungle of overgrown bushes, tangled vines, and broken garden gnomes with missing heads. A rusted lawnmower sat abandoned in the grass, and plastic bags fluttered in the trees like ghosts. It was the kind of place you'd hurry past, holding your breath. The house belonged to 2 elderly sisters, Margaret and Evelyn, who lived there with their 3 grandkids, Noah, who was my age, and his twin sisters, Sophie and Emma. Margaret was the quiet one, always rocking in a faded chair on the porch, staring at the trees like she was waiting for something. Evelyn was sharper, moving with a limp but still tending to the kids. Noah was in my class at school, and I could tell right away he was off. He'd show up at our house unannounced, no knock, no text, just there, like he belonged. Once, I caught him doing cannonballs in our pool without asking. Another time, he walked into our kitchen, grabbed a slice of leftover pizza from the fridge, and ate it with his hands like it was his. He was obsessed with anime, spouting Japanese phrases I didn't understand and getting mad when I didn't laugh. His eyes had this weird glint sometimes, like he was picturing something dark. The twins, Sophie and Emma, were different. Quiet, almost invisible. Their clothes were always dirty, and they spoke in garbled mumbles, like toddlers, even though they were 7. They flinched at loud noises and always looked hungry, like no one was taking care of them. I felt bad, but I didn't know how to help. Then there was their mom, Rachel. The first time I saw her, she was struggling with a hose near our yard. She was tall, heavier than the rest of her family, with long curly black hair and glasses that looked out of place, like they were from another decade. Unlike the others, she was put together. Clean clothes, styled hair, a big smile. She waved me over, asking for help with the faucet, saying it was stuck. I turned it easily, and she clapped, calling me strong, making me feel like I was important. Then she said something weird. "Did you know you have a third eye?" I blinked, confused, and she smiled wider, explaining it was a spiritual eye that sees the truth. Before I could ask more, she invited me to her house. I followed, curious, but uneasy. The inside hit me like a wave of decay. Spoiled food, mildew, something worse. Trash was everywhere, piled on stained furniture. I wanted to leave, but Rachel grabbed my wrist, leading me upstairs to her room. It was pristine. Pink wallpaper, clean carpet, shelves of porcelain dolls. The air smelled like roses, but something felt wrong, like I was being watched. I couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was staring at me, waiting. Things got worse after that day in Rachel's room. I couldn't shake the image of those pentagram symbols on her book, her jewelry box, even scratched into the floor. I stopped going near their house, but the feeling of being watched never left me. Noah kept showing up, his grin sharper, his eyes wilder. One time, he chased me through the woods with a stick, laughing like it was a game. But I felt his anger. In 2019, everything unraveled. Evelyn had a heart attack and collapsed in their living room, right in front of Noah and the twins. I heard it was chaos. Sophie and Emma are screaming, Noah, just standing there, blank. I went to the funeral in a rundown church on the edge of town. The family sat stone-faced, except for a woman I didn't know, sobbing so loudly it echoed. No one comforted her. That same year, Noah disappeared. Word was, he tried to hurt one of the twins, Sophie, I think, and was sent to a psychiatric facility. No one shared details, but my parents sat me down that night, their faces grim, and told me to stay away from that family for good. I didn't argue. The pieces were clicking. Noah's creepy behavior, the twins' fear, Rachel's strange rituals. It all felt wrong, like something dark had taken root in that house. By 2020, Rachel and the twins were gone, leaving Margaret alone in that crumbling place. She passed away that spring, frail and forgotten. The house went up for auction, and my old teacher, Miss Laura, bought it with her husband. They gutted most of it, keeping only the original 1920s section, the part with Rachel's room. When Miss Laura invited us over to see the renovations, I didn't want to go, but my mom insisted. The house looked new, fresh paint, open floors, shiny appliances. But upstairs, in what used to be Rachel's room, my skin crawled. The pink wallpaper was gone, replaced with beige carpet, but I could feel it. The pentagram, still there, like the floor remembered. I got nauseous, like the walls were closing in, watching me. I lied about a headache and left before dinner. Years passed, and I tried to forget. But in 2025, a girl from school mentioned seeing Rachel at a farmer's market in a nearby town. She was leading some kind of religious group, calling herself a truth seer, living in a mobile home community deep in the woods. Flyers started appearing on telephone poles, her face smiling from grainy photos, promising spiritual awakening. I didn't trust it. Rachel wasn't just neglectful. She'd abandoned her kids, left Margaret to rot, and I was sure she'd brought something evil into that house, something that stayed. I still have nightmares about her and Noah. They stand at the foot of my bed, staring, silent, their eyes boring into me. Every time I pass that house, even now, my stomach twists. The new paint, the fancy furniture, it's all surface. That place remembers. It holds on to what happened, like a stain you can't scrub out. I feel it watching me, waiting, and I'm powerless to make it stop. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if Rachel's still out there, spreading whatever darkness she carried. I don't know what she was doing in that room all those years ago, but I know it wasn't good. And I know, deep down, that house will never let go of her shadow. It's part of it now, and I'm scared I'll never escape it either. Story 2. Back in my freshman year of high school, I was living in a small town in Ohio, in a quiet apartment complex that felt like it was stuck in the 90s. I'm Lucas, and life was pretty normal. School, basketball, at the community center, and hanging out with friends. That's when I got close to Mason, a kid a grade below me, still in his final year of junior high. We hit it off because we both loved basketball. We'd shoot hoops at the rec center, talk about the Cavs, and one time my dad even took us to a Cleveland Cavaliers game. Mason was pumped. It was his first live game, and we had a blast cheering in the stands. He was a good guy to hang with, always full of energy, and we'd meet up maybe once a week to play ball or just chill. But even early on, I noticed Mason could get intense. If he missed a shot or lost a game, he'd clench his fists, his face turning red, like he was holding back a storm. I brushed it off. Everyone gets mad sometimes, right? As the school year went on, I started getting busier. Summer was coming, and I was stoked to start driver's training and a side job to save up some cash. My schedule got tight, and I couldn't hang out with Mason as much. That's when things shifted. He'd text me, asking to meet up, and if I said I was busy, he'd get short, almost snappy. One time, I told him I was cleaning the apartment and couldn't come out. He didn't reply, but when I checked my phone later, I saw he'd removed me on Snapchat. I was confused, so I messaged him on Facebook, asking what was up. He said I was dodging him, like I was lying to avoid him. I'll admit, sometimes I did make excuses. Mason was starting to wear me out with his clinginess, and his mood swings were getting harder to deal with. But I didn't expect what came next. One night, after the sun had set, I was home alone, scrolling on my phone, when I heard footsteps outside. I figured it was a neighbor, But then there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. I opened the door a crack, peeked into the hallway, but it was empty. I shrugged it off, thinking it was kids messing around. Then, out of nowhere, I glanced out my window and froze. Mason was standing there, just outside, staring at me. No wave, no smile, just this cold, unblinking stare that made my skin crawl. I opened the window and asked why he didn't text me first. He didn't answer, just kept looking at me for a few seconds before turning and walking away slowly, disappearing into the dark. My heart was pounding. Why was he here, unannounced, at night? What was that look? It wasn't just anger.it, felt like he was sizing me up, like I'd done something to him. I turned off my Snap Map after that, hiding my location, because I didn't trust him anymore. The next day, I added him back, hoping it was just a weird moment. But deep down, I felt uneasy, like he was watching me, waiting for something. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was alone in this, stuck dealing with someone who was starting to feel like a stranger, and I had no idea how to handle it. That weird night with Mason staring at me through the window was just the start. Things got worse, fast. I tried to keep things normal, but he was like a storm cloud hanging over me. If I couldn't hang out, he'd send these short, bitter texts accusing me of blowing him off. I started feeling trapped, like I was walking on eggshells just to keep him from flipping out. Then, about a month later, I got a text from Ryan, a friend I didn't see much but who knew Mason and his ex-girlfriend. Ryan dropped a bomb. Mason had held a knife to his ex's throat and assaulted her. My stomach sank. I knew he had anger issues, but this was something else. I felt sick, realizing I'd been hanging out with someone capable of that. Without hesitating, I blocked him on Snapchat, Instagram, everything. He blew up my phone on Instagram before I could block him there, demanding to know why I was cutting him off. I lied, saying I needed space and would add him back later, just to get him to leave me alone. But I knew I was done. That night, my parents were out of town, having dinner with friends in the next city over. I was home alone, watching television, when I heard a knock at the door. My heart jumped. I crept to the peephole. Nobody there. I cracked the door open, checked the hallway, but it was empty. I told myself it was just kids messing around, but I felt uneasy. Later, I glanced out my bedroom window. The streetlight was out, and in the darkness, I saw a flicker, like a phone screen. Then I saw him, Mason, standing right outside my window, staring at me. My blood ran cold. He was holding something in his hand. I squinted, and when he raised it, I saw it clear as day, a knife glinting in the dim light. I yelled through the window, telling him to get lost, that I didn't want him here. He stepped closer, saying he just wanted to talk, but his voice was flat, like he was trying to stay calm. I shouted that I was calling the cops, my hands shaking as I grabbed my phone. He bolted before I could dial, vanishing into the night. When the police showed up, I gave them the best description I could, but they didn't find him. I haven't heard from Mason since, and I hope I never do. That night left a mark on me. I keep replaying it, wondering if he was planning to hurt me, or worse. Being alone in that apartment, knowing he was out there with a knife, made me feel so helpless, like I was stuck in a bad dream with no way out. I'm grateful I cut him off when I did, because if I'd kept him in my life, I don't know what he might have done. I think he ended up in juvie or something, but I don't know for sure, and I don't want to. The worst part is the lingering fear. Every time I hear a noise at night or see a shadow outside, my mind goes back to him, standing there, watching me. It's like he's still out there, waiting for a chance to come back. I feel isolated sometimes, like I can't fully trust anyone after that. That experience changed me, and I don't think I'll ever shake the feeling that I barely escaped something truly awful. Story 3. In the fall of 2022, I was feeling pretty good about a first date I'd set up with a girl named Olivia, someone I'd met on a dating app. I'm Caleb, just a regular guy from a small town in Colorado, and Olivia and I had been texting for a couple of weeks, bonding over our love for horror movies. When Smile hit theaters, we both agreed it'd be the perfect vibe for our first meetup. We picked a Thursday night, a late 10:15 p.m. showing at an old theater just outside town. It wasn't one of those shiny multiplexes, just a small, kind of rundown place with flickering neon signs. I offered to drive, picking Olivia up around 9:30. She was sweet, maybe a bit shy at first, bundled in a hoodie and jeans. The drive was quiet, but once we started talking about our favorite horror flicks from growing up, she opened up, and we were laughing, swapping stories about getting spooked as kids. I was starting to feel like this could be something. When we pulled into the theater's lot, it was practically deserted, just a couple of cars under dim streetlights. I joked that the place looked like it belonged in a horror movie itself. Creaky doors, faded posters, and a vibe like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. The lobby was empty except for one guy at the concession stand, looking bored. I asked if the theater would be packed, and he chuckled, saying we were the only ones who'd bought tickets for that show. I thought, sweet, it's like a private screening. We grabbed some popcorn, headed to Theater 6, and picked seats dead center, a few rows from the back. It was freezing in there, and Olivia pointed it out right away, rubbing her arms. I offered her my jacket, and we laughed about how eerie it felt, being the only ones in this big, dark room. We chatted through the previews, and I could feel a spark. Nothing major, just that easy connection you hope for on a first date. I was thinking this might actually go somewhere. Then, right as the last trailer ended and the lights dimmed for the movie, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. Someone walked into the theater. No big deal, I figured. Just a latecomer. But they didn't pause to check their phone or look for a seat like most people do. They walked straight up the steps, slow and deliberate, and sat down right behind us. I mean, directly behind me, in a theater with like 100 empty seats. Olivia turned to glance at him, then looked at me with this subtle, what the heck expression. I forced a quiet laugh, whispering, "Of course, this guy." But something felt off. You know that prickly feeling when someone's staring at you? It hit me hard. A minute later, I glanced back, trying to be casual. He wasn't watching the screen. He was looking at us. Straight at me. Not blinking. Just sitting there, leaning forward slightly. He was middle-aged, maybe late 40s, clean-shaven, pale, wearing a dark hoodie. His eyes didn't look zoned out or distracted. They were locked on us, empty but intense. My stomach twisted. I leaned over to Olivia and whispered, "He's just staring." She nodded, her voice low. "I know." We tried to focus on the movie, but I couldn't shake the weight of his gaze, like it was pressing into the back of my head, watching, waiting, and I felt completely alone despite Olivia being right there. That guy sitting behind us in the theater had me on edge. His stare like a weight I couldn't shake. Olivia and I tried to watch Smile, but every few minutes I'd feel it again. His eyes boring into us. I kept stealing glances back, hoping he'd look away, but he never did. His face was blank, almost too still, like he wasn't even there mentally. About 20 minutes in, I leaned forward to whisper to Olivia, "This guy's really freaking me out." Her eyes were wide, scared, and she asked if we should move. I thought about it, but every seat was still in the same room, and I didn't want to make things weird, or worse, tick him off. Then it got worse. I felt a soft, slow breath on the back of my neck, deliberate, like he was leaning over my seat. My heart stopped. I whipped around, and there he was, his face way closer than it should have been, still staring, not saying a word. I snapped, "Dude, can you not?" He didn't react, just eased back into his seat, slow and calm, like nothing happened. That was it. I grabbed Olivia's hand and whispered, "Let's move." We got up, hurried down to the front corner row. Terrible seats, but I needed distance. I could barely focus on the movie, my eyes flicking back every few minutes. He was still there, still staring, not even pretending to watch the screen. It felt like he was waiting for something, and we were trapped in that freezing, empty theater with him. Halfway through, I heard footsteps, He was coming down the steps. Olivia gripped my arm, and we both froze, barely breathing. The steps stopped a few rows above us. I didn't dare look, but I could feel him there, standing, watching. My mind raced. What does he want? Why us? After what felt like forever, he walked back up to his seat. I leaned to Olivia, my voice shaking. We need to leave. She nodded, and we grabbed our stuff, slipping out as quietly as we could. As we passed the theater door, I glanced through the glass. He was standing in the aisle now, not watching the movie, just staring at us through the window. My blood ran cold. We rushed to the lobby and told the concession guy some creep was acting weird in Theater 6. His face changed, like he'd heard this before. Again? He said. I blinked. What do you mean again? He hesitated, then said this guy had been showing up for late shows for a month, never buying anything, just sitting there, freaking people out. I was pissed. Why haven't you kicked him out? The guy shrugged, looking uneasy. Management says unless he does something illegal, we can't touch him. Olivia was shaking, almost in tears, and asked if someone could walk us to the car. A janitor escorted us, and thank God the guy didn't follow. At least, not that we saw. Driving Olivia home, I kept checking my rear view, paranoid he'd gotten my license plate or was tailing us. I dropped her off, but we never saw each other again. That night messed us both up. For weeks, I avoided that side of town, jumping at every shadow, feeling like he was still out there, watching. My cop friend said the theater could have banned him, but they didn't, and that made me feel even more helpless. I haven't been back to that place, and I still wonder how many others he's done this to, sitting in the dark, waiting, while we're all stuck, unable to do anything but run.